This is going to be very informal and probably not as in-depth about code and stuff as the previous talk. A lot of this is just going to be like personal anecdotes and interesting little things that have happened and stuff that I've learned. And hopefully some of that's useful to you. A lot of it's going to be coming from my point of view, but thankfully I have dragged along some of my team as well. And so if you want to know anything code, just bother the hell out of Zach. You know, we've got artists over here, like we got you covered. So yeah, another thing as well, I always hate it in speeches when like you really want the person to immediately elaborate a bit more on a point, so feel free at any time to ask a question. Yeah. Hey, it worked. So a bit about me. So I got started in game development, I guess, as a kid. Starcraft came out when I was 8 years old, and my brothers were really good at it, and I was really bad at it. But I discovered the level editor. And in the level editor, I could do some really cool stuff, like make sure that I start with way more money than my brothers, and little cheats like that, that they would never know. And so then I started winning lots, and eventually they clued on to what was going on. But that actually really got me into like level design and creating maps and stuff. And then Warcraft 3 came out, and you know, I basically invented Dota, you know, all that kind of stuff. Everyone tried their hands at that stuff. But yeah, and then in Warcraft 3 it became a lot more about the narrative more than the level design, and it was a lot more of an interesting space to work in. After that, I didn't do very well at school. I played a lot of Dota, and I got an OP 18. That was a good effort. But yeah, but I knew I wanted to work in games or multimedia kind of space, so moved to Brisbane and went to TAFE. At TAFE, I accidentally walked into the wrong class, which happened to be the games class. I was actually accidentally in the web design class. But I was in there for one class before they realized that I wasn't supposed to be there. And then I'm just like, actually, you know what, I'm just going to change. And so I joined games properly, and it was all history from there. So finished that, and then went on to do the QT games course. I did a mix of entrepreneurship as well as game design. I'm really interested in like running teams and producing and hitting that like producer designer role for game jams that, you know, we kind of said was a bit useless. Hey. Oh yeah, no.
Like producer design at the same
Oh, don't worry, I think they're useless. I just somehow managed to convince these chumps that I can get away with it. But yeah, after finishing that, I decided to go on and do my master's in interactive and visual design. Although really a lot of this is on narrative design. I think that's my true passion. I really love that stuff from playing D&D and things like that. And so yeah, I really got into narrative design. Got asked to tutor in narrative design and visual design at QT for the games course. Currently not doing that, mostly a bit too busy. Aside from that, I just really like game jams. And that's basically me summed up. Yeah. So, one of the guts of this stuff. So Think of the Children is our baby. So we made this last October in the 48 hour. So we kind of came and I think we were hungry for a win. We wanted to actually compete a fair bit. And so we looked at the things that were successful in the past, past being one previous jam. But we looked at what won that and noticed some clear things. The first was it was multiplayer. It was playable with controllers. You could just immediately come up, pick it up, and instantly know how to play the game. It was visually simple, but still aesthetically pleasing. There was a lot of like little details that could easily be put into any kind of game, really. And so we really we wanted to do something in that kind of space and apply that to our own kind of game. So we did what I think is the best idea, but the moment the jam starts, just leave, go to a cafe, get a bunch of milkshakes, bring a whiteboard, and just start shooting shit and like throwing out whatever ideas you can. There was a lot of awful ideas. The keywords, being love, power, and surprise, went to a dark place pretty quickly. I don't think anyone wants to play a rape simulator, so that one got thrown out very quickly. But yeah, we just kept throwing out ideas, Cupid shooting arrows at people, but we knew that we wanted to make something that none of the other teams would. The previous year, one of the keywords was swallow, and we're like, we'll get them, we'll make one about a bird. And then everyone did birds.
Was it angry or flappy?
Depending on the game. Ours was both angry and flappy, so yeah. But yeah, we really wanted to dodge that this time, so we tried to take it in a bit of a different path. I think, the one that we really kind of cling to was this idea of protecting children. It was multiplayer, you'd play as the parents, and then there was like ghosts, I think, that would come and kill your children, and as the children die, the level gets darker, and so you have lights to keep the ghosts away, and eventually we started just like being like, okay, yeah, we like this, but what if we strip out this? Okay, we really like this, but hey, what if we strip out this? And we just kind of kept like refining it down. Eventually we kind of, we really wanted to juxtapose, like we love the idea of brightness and happiness and then like dark humor. So we really wanted to juxtapose them. But eventually we kind of realized that you don't need malicious things to kill children, they will kill themselves. And so that became the game, was keep your kids safe from killing themselves. And we managed to finish it up, and we took home the People's Choice Award for it. Yeah, it was pretty, it went pretty smoothly actually, comparatively. The year before was, yep.
How many people when playing tried not to win?
A lot, actually, yeah. We very early made a conscious decision that you couldn't actively kill a child. There is technically a way if you can perfectly time a throw, because you can like hammer throw your children, of course. So if you can perfectly time a throw as a car's coming by, that would clean them up.
Still the car fills the
But yeah, there were people just constantly just like throwing them into the pool, even at the game jam. Yeah.
Was having a big TV a conscious decision?
Was that sorry?
You guys had like a pretty big TV.
Oh yeah.
And the setup was really good. Was that a conscious decision, or you just used whatever?
I think it came through like halfway. We were like, we got a TV and we got a projector. I think originally we wanted to get it on the projector, but that didn't turn out so good. So the TV became like our main display. But we definitely knew that we wanted like something big and flashy, just to really like, because even though we're all about like getting those two people and getting them laughing together, really the game is about the people watching behind and being like, oh my God, I can't believe you just threw a kid into a car. So we wanted to kind of encapsulate that, but yeah. So I accidentally put in the wrong shot. This is after we've polished the level. I was gonna show the immediately after the game jam. But this was our level from the game jam. We just made one level. We tried our hand at procedural generation for levels in the previous year, and as Alex has described, instead of doing 100 bad levels, do one good level. So that was definitely one of the things we learned. And so we tried that. So it's just very simple. You just have to keep the kids safe. All the hazards are kind of at the edge, so you need to be running around a lot. We wanted to be really frantic. There's like picnic tables there and barbecues for those who haven't seen the game before. Those are tasks that you need to complete. Like any parent, you got shit to do. So you need to balance doing things, but also keeping your kids alive.
Did you finish all that matches on the game jam?
Not all of this, but I think we hit basically all of our, basically all the assets and everything that we wanted. I think the game turned out pretty much as we wanted. I think we had a couple bugs still that we just kind of swept under the rug. We had like colliders that weren't working, so like you just drive through a car. But I think we hit basically all the points that we really wanted. Like we finished early, which is nice. Probably could have kept doing a bit more. So after the game jam, we knew we had something. It was really fun, and the hype, we were all on that hype train. We just kept going with it. and this is where I'd probably jump into an immediate thing that I've learnt, is polish the game immediately. We kind of threw it out there a bit too early. But, so we posted up on various internet sites to get fake internet points, to boost our egos even more. So we went most viral on IMGA, which is cool. We also chucked up on like Reddit and things like that and got some pretty good reception there. Aside from that, we then also like chucked out the feelers to publishers immediately with our straight out of the Game Jam build, no polish added. And the feedback, one of the big feedbacks we got was from Tiny Build. And Tiny Build were like, what are you going to do to balance the chaoticness of this? Like, it's too chaotic. And then I kind of responded to them, and they just never hit us back. Which, funnily enough, that we'll get into later, we had a nice chat from them later on at PAX. But a friend that I'd met at one of these game dev drinks meetups, he works for Surprise Attack, showed it to his boss, and they immediately fell in love and decided, even though they do like narrative games, but they decided, you know what, screw our image, like we want this game. And so they jumped on board. And we, being very new developers who didn't really know what we were doing, saw that as a really good opportunity to get this actually done. So we very quickly went into development, and we were going to have a very short development cycle. So we're currently slated. So we made it, end of October, and we're currently looking at releasing mid-May. So it's a really short dev time. But there is reasoning for this. The main one is keeping on the hype. There's been a lot of people really excited about the game, and if we carry it out too long, the jokes start to wear off. So we want to keep the game funny. The other one is that, so I'm a fan in game jams of having a really big team. I want to have as many people there as possible so that we can really get the job done. But then when you go to actually start a business, especially if you're all sharing in the exact same amount of intellectual property, this isn't good for making money. So if we're going to have any hope of actually coming out of this with a profit, we had to do it really quick. If we kept it going any longer, you then start weighing up the cost of like, if I had just worked at Woolies this whole time, I probably would have made more. Maybe I wouldn't be as happy, but maybe less stressed, but yeah. So yeah, we knew we had to get it done quick. And so we really scoped it in a lot. So we knew we just wanted to go for like 10 levels. We wanted to charge like $10 for it so that people wouldn't feel ripped off or anything if we charged like $30 and it only had 10 levels, especially since our levels are really short like gameplay. So we kept everything really scoped in. Eventually it ballooned out a little bit because the publishers had some extra features they wanted, like a single player campaign. Online multi was one of the big ones that we were advocating for, but we knew that we couldn't do. So with the help of funding from Surprise Attack, we've just paid for that. And so that's getting done and we don't have to do it, which is really nice. Highly recommend that. Because yeah, there's no possible way that we'd be able to get our online multiplayer working in that period of time without getting another company to do it for us. In terms of like the publisher agreement, we're actually very independent from them. We don't have to do anything they say really. They give us ideas on what we should do, but for the most part, it's entirely up to us. Yep.
Didn't you just say they asked you to add in extra features, which kind of dragged out the process?
They did. They were good ideas though. Yeah.
They weren't requirements.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, we could have turned around and said, you know what, no, we don't want a single player campaign. And there was resistance to that in the team as well. We certainly weren't all in agreement of having that. We had a bit of a, we had to decide, are we really going to be a full couch co-op party game, or are we going to open this up a bit more? And we ended up opting for opening it up and agreed with them. But for the most part, it's whatever we say go, at least for the game. the deal kind of works out that they're in charge of like marketing and stuff like that, and we just have to make the game. We do have to try and hit deadlines, but there isn't really a punishment for not, so it's a pretty relaxed deal. So I super recommend these guys, actually. But yeah, what am I up to? So in terms of our like development style, we're definitely agile development, kind of. I think we probably look somewhat similar to Halfbrick in a way, where everyone's, although they're going against us now, but like everyone is the designer. Everyone has good ideas. You don't need one person doing that. In saying that, because I'm a designer by trade, I then more focus to being a producer. And I think my role's more like maintaining product vision, not so much telling the team how everything has to be. This does give us some advantages in that our artists have a lot of free range to do what they want. It does take a lot of trust in your team, but you should have that anyway. But like when you have a talented team, you can just be like, yo, you can do this. Yeah, you got that covered. But yeah, make pretty stuff and we'll make it work. But yeah, so it's we're really just figuring out our style as we go. I think we've had it multiple times where we hit a point where we've noticed that, okay, the way we're currently doing something is not working. So like the way we were doing our level design was too much of just like, artists figure this stuff out. You guys know what will look pretty. But then that makes us not have good actual design for those levels. So we then came back to this, got everyone involved again, so that we meet up at the start of a level design, like white box it, figure out what's going on, and then the artists go away and make it. But it takes off a lot of that pressure there. And we're constantly finding these points where it's like, actually we're probably not too efficient here. And we're not really replicating a good studio here. Maybe we should do this better. But yeah. So we recently did a lot of development and got ready for Pax. So I'm back from Pax South in Texas and then went to RTX in Sydney. So we just took 2 levels. This is our second level at the beach with fun stuff like oiling up Grandpa so he doesn't light on fire, jellyfish that look very similar to SpongeBob's. Probably shouldn't say that stuff on record. Yeah, it's fine. Hammerhead sharks that like hammer the kids in the face. It's great. Because yeah, it turns out they have really small mouths, so they can't actually like eat a child. Yeah. These are the things you learn when figuring out how to kill children. But yeah.
I'd be quite mindful for that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to end up in jail after all this game. But yeah, it came out really good, and we had this really fun, short experience for players. One of our biggest worries was like, people would just play it once and be like, okay, yeah, that was a cool 2 minutes of my life, and then they'd leave. But people just kept replaying, or they'd leave, go see some other stuff, come back when it's more quiet, keep playing. And our levels, even though they're really short, actually have a lot of replay value, especially because like the kids will go to different spots. So, you know, one time you might play and they'll all drown. The other time they're all standing in traffic, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it came together pretty well. So once we had our build, it was time to take it across the seas and show it off to the world. So this was our first big playtesting session, really. That was one of the main goals of taking it over there, is when else do you get an opportunity to have a few thousand people play your game and really find the problems. So we were really digging that. And we got straight into it. And it was clear that a lot of the choices we made actually were really good. And there was a couple things that we needed to fix up. But for the most part, we were really happy with it. One of the things we really liked from this, though, was we have these grand ambitions of all these different game modes and stuff for it. But because people enjoyed just the original concept so much, enough to replay it over and over again, it meant that that was really core to our gameplay and that was just really fun. So instead of making all these different game modes, just keep it simple and stick to like the core game. So now we were aiming for 4 different game modes at release, and now we're just going for the 2 throughout the main campaign, and then we'll see how multiplayer shapes up and maybe do some more work there. But we really just wanted to keep the game very simple and just make it fun. The fun comes from the kids getting killed, not necessarily what you did to protect them and stuff. Yeah, an interesting point. So I mentioned previously about Tiny Build, right? So they took one look at it after the jam and weren't really interested. So we then brought it over to Pax with all its polish, and it was looking nice and pretty. And there's people crowding around trying to play the game. And so suddenly this person comes up to me and she starts asking me, hey, do you have a publisher? I'm with this team called Tiny Build. I'm the owner. And it's like, oh, that's very cool. And they're like, yeah, we love your game. We really want to publish it. I'm like, that's interesting because I emailed you guys and you turned me away. And she's like, sorry, what? I'm like, yeah, I talked to this guy and he wasn't a fan. Said it was too chaotic and it was never going to work. And she's like, sorry, what was his name? So I think I got someone fired.
That's what they get for not liking the game.
Well, exactly. They didn't see the potential there. But PAX, like these big American conventions in particular, are a publisher feeding ground. I think overall we had at least 10 different publishers come up and be like, hey, do you guys want a publisher? I'm like, I'm literally standing behind this giant surprise attack publishing banner. I'm like, I'm pretty good. Thank you though. But they're just constantly going for it. Yeah.
In the instance that you didn't have a publisher lined up and you were getting all these offers, how would you handle that situation?
Business cards galore, and definitely talking to them, and seeing, shopping around for the best deal kind of thing.
With nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the interest. We'll be in
Yeah,
contact.
yeah, absolutely. And especially, giving yourself the power, not them so much. But yeah, we definitely, for the most part, they just kept coming back, and they're like, are you sure? Do you need something else? Rooster Teeth heard that we had a publisher, so they left. And then they came back and they're just like, hey, but do you want it on our channels though? And we're like, okay, maybe, but we don't really want to pay for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely about just contacting them and getting their card more so. Yeah. Yeah.
You said that these American conventions are feeding friendly. Was it different for Sydney?
Yeah. So Sydney, we had Rooster Teeth come by again, being Rooster Teeth Expo. But aside from that, there was no real other publishers. Mostly, I'm not sure if there are too many Australian publishers or if it's worth other ones flying out here. But for PAX, they were there in force. And I'm expecting it's going to be the same case at PAX East, which I fly out to on Tuesday. So yeah, it's just, if you need a publisher, probably a good idea. Yeah.
Roughly how much was it to go all the way out there to America and have everything and show up? And
Yeah, interestingly, it's cheaper to go to America to showcase than it is to go to Australia. PAX Australia is more expensive, including flights and everything, than PAX East or South in America. So I think PAX Australia charges about $5,000 for the booth, which is quite a lot. PAX South was $1,000. And then you add, $1,800 of flights on top, and then $400 of Airbnb, and then you've still come shorter than just the price of the booth for PAX Australia. And then you have, 100 times more people there, and it's just overall a way better experience.
but what about the Trump effect? Did that play into
That, I could go into that quite a lot, probably off topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, surprisingly though, a lot of Texans aren't a fan of the man. I thought I was going to get murdered if I said anything. But no, they're just no, we hate that guy. We weren't going to vote for Hillary, but we hate that guy. But yeah.
That seems funny. They're probably just voting for the side they hate less.
Yeah.
In politics.
But yeah.
More so than
So yeah, getting into actual jam tips and things that we've kind of learned. The big one in wanting to take it into production, if that's what you're feeling, is polish the hell out of it before you show it to anyone. We had one of the top upvoted comments on the Imager page was like, why does the car drive through the van? And that had like 300 upvotes. And it's like, well, that might have turned away people potentially. So if we just didn't do that, if we polished that and fixed that up, which would have been the case of like moving a van slightly, that never would have happened. Not that that's too bad of a thing, but like looking back at like Tiny Build, for instance, if we had have polished it, given it that week or two to polish, potentially that guy that was like, nah, I don't see what it's going to look like when it's done, might have had a different opinion. So definitely, give it a good amount of polish and at least make that game jam level look like, be a real accurate representation of what your final release product would look like. Because then your publishers will way easier be able to tell what they're buying into. I think it's definitely worth it to figure out if you're actually got a commercially viable game or if you have a portfolio game. Not that there's anything bad with just doing games for portfolios. That's definitely my plan for the next game jam probably that I do. Because this has been a lot of work and continues to be. But if you make, like some games that you make, they're just never going to be able to sell. Our first game at the time was kind of in a space, it was like a mobile endless runner kind of thing, which at the time was kind of popular on the App Store, but in the time it would take for us to polish and release it, it would have been dead and gone and just been a zombie app on there and stuff. So it probably wasn't commercially viable. In saying that though, we could have polished it up a lot more and had a really good portfolio piece. So yeah, you definitely need to ask yourself that before you even decide to keep moving. We actually got really hung up on like the business details and stuff and like talking about what our company's going to look like, what's the business structure, what's our partnership agreement and stuff going to look like, how are we going to work, how are we going to do this stuff, do we actually really want to go with Surprise Attack and stuff. We got really caught up on that and probably wasted at least a month of just hard dev time. And for us, a month is like 4 levels, most of the art done, probably 2 of those implemented. So almost half of the content that we're going to release with could have potentially been done in that time, or at least gotten the early stages of it maybe, I don't know. But like, we wasted a lot of time then. And looking back, if we had have just like, kind of just went with it and just got stuck into the development and focused on the business stuff less, we probably would have come out ahead on our schedule quite a lot more. But also like get together after the jam and have a really good talk about what your goals are. So not everyone is in it for the money. Not everyone wants a portfolio piece. You don't really know what everyone's trying to get out of this. So you really need to make sure you sit down and have a really long talk about that. Not just saying like, oh yeah, I want to make some money, but talk the exact figure that you would need to make in what time for this to be worth it. Like Brad works at Halfbrick and stuff and is investing all of his nighttime into making this game. You have to at some point do the math and be like, okay, is this worth it for me? Don't quit. But yeah, it's like you can actually pretty easily go and calculate how much your time costs. And that's a really good way of figuring out how much you need to make, which then lets you set a price point, because you can look up, we looked up like Overcooked's sales figures and we're like, okay, that's pretty good. We reckon we could probably do near that. So if we sold it at this point, we'd make this much, which then means we get effectively this much per year. And you can figure all that stuff out pretty easily and then make your decision of, okay, is this worth us continuing? Because if you think this game is going to take you another 2 years and you have 6 members, you're looking at you need to make millions and millions on that game to have a chance of getting any actual return on your investment. So yeah.
I'm a bit curious about the way you calculated the amount of money that you were going to make out of these games.
Yeah, so I just looked at, I basically just took minimum wage for me because that was just easier. Because if I went and got a job instead of doing this, I would probably not be making very much. So then I multiplied that out, like got what my yearly income would be. I then looked at the actual, like similar games and how much they actually made. I then used that, took away the Steam share, took away the publisher's share, took away down to my individual share, which ends up close to about $1 per sale. So then, which actually makes the math a lot easier, because that's just like, all right, we make $100,000. If we do 100,000 sales, I get $100,000. So now if that was $100,000 in 6 months, beautiful. That's a great income. If that's $100,000 in 2 years, that's kind of average. You know, but if it was, you know, $50,000 over two years, that's not worth it. You then have other factors to take into account, like, does this boost my career? Am I going to get a better job because of this, which then will lead to more pay in the future, stuff like that. But just going the true maths, yeah, just look at like what your yearly salary would be laying bricks, and then look at, you know, how much you could actually stand to make off this game. Steam Spy is the best app in the world for doing that. You can just look up any game and see exactly how many sales they've had across all platforms. Well, all Steam-related ones. So, like, if they've sold it on Humble Bundle as well, it's going to show up there. So you can really easily tell exactly how much you're expected to make. For reference, Surprise Attack currently put us in at estimated revenue 500,000 to $1 million, which equates to pretty good money for us, not great. But then we'll get more if we do DLC, that boosts that up further. If we do console ports, that's an extra 50% they're expecting. So then we start actually looking at decent money from this. But I don't think we're going to get that helicopter. Maybe a remote-controlled one, or a drone or something. But yeah. In terms of actual conventions, these are my tips that I've learned. Find where the parties are. There's always parties at these, and you should go to them because they are the best opportunity for networking. What happened with us is we had a couple Twitch streamers come around on the first day. Excuse me. And they really liked it. They loved the game. One of them, in fact, is now our biggest fan, and it feels weird to have a fan. But yeah, they then went to the Twitch party, which I wasn't able to attend because I went to this other one. And then they spread the word around so much that the next day, every Twitch streamer at the convention came by. Some of which are some of my all-time favorites, like Eat My Diction, Gassy Mexican. Absolutely love them. We had like Angry Joe Show from YouTube and stuff come around. And yeah, we just had these awesome people coming. And all that was just because someone went to a party and said, hey, this game's really awesome. You guys have to check it out. And so that could have been me potentially. And mind you, I was doing that at a different party. So it all kind of works out. Don't go to the wrestling though. The publishers tried, that I was with, they tried to go to the wrestling and they arrived 10 minutes before it finished. And then, yeah, it was just an awful experience. A lot of Australians flew over for the wrestling though. And then we're like on the flight back and I just hear, man, I'm fanging for a zinger. And it's just like, oh, okay, that guy's Australian. If you're looking at, like, for us, streamers are our core, like, marketing target. We really want influencers because it's the kind of game you watch someone play and be like, hey, that's really funny. I want to give it a bash. So we're really hitting them hard. And one of the things I learned is that a little bit of support actually goes a long way with the Twitch streamers. So one of the little design decisions that we've done is we're keeping the bottom left corner of the map on every single level pretty much empty. We want to keep that. There's never really going to be action there, which means that a Twitch streamer can start the game up, put their webcam there, and they will never block out any gameplay. They will never have any worries. They don't have to move it again. And it's basically no effort on our part, but it means a lot to the streamers. And so suddenly they're hearing that there's this game that actually is built for streamers. And so they're getting a lot more interested then. Even things like we're looking at having the children will be named out of your Twitch chat and stuff like that, so that you can watch your Twitch chat die. Or you can just type in your own. I think we've already gone a little bit political with some of the base ones there. There's like Tony Abbott and Nigel Farage, stuff like that. You know, you can do little things to your game that actually just means a lot to the streamers and gives them the opportunity to have a lot of fun. And if they're having fun, then the viewers are having fun. And especially now that Twitch is going to start selling games, that's rad as hell. We need to get on that. With press, you can usually find it, sometimes it's a bit obscured, but you can hunt it down. But the conventions usually, like, they know the press that are coming because they've given them press badges. So they have a big list of all of the press that's coming. And you can get that. And if you get that, you can start making bookings. So it's really important to actually just send all the press an email and be like, hey, if you've got free time, I'd like to make a booking to come by and check out our game. Rather than just hoping that they're going to come around, you can nearly force them to come. Because once they make the booking, they feel kind of obligated to. If you do this, though, you need to set up a press priority station. Very important. You need to make sure it's nice and signed as press priority, and when someone jumps on it to play it, just inform them like, hey, we're expecting like this person from IGN to come by in 10 minutes, and if that happens, I have to, kick you off. So just a heads up. And you can direct them to your other station if, they want to go for a long time. But yeah, make sure you've got that set up. If you haven't really made any bookings, I wouldn't bother. Just kind of like jump the queue. Yeah.
Is there ever a problem that someone ends up playing for too long on a non-press priority thing that you want to go through more hands?
For our game, no, because it's funny to watch. And people typically stick around if they really want to play it. But next to us, Surprise Attack have some of their other games, and that's definitely a problem for those. So like they have like Hacknet and stuff, which are just awesome games, but it really takes like an hour to really get like invested into it. And so it's hard to showcase that to a lot of people because one dude's just going to get stuck on it. Mind you, if they're getting that into it, they're probably a guaranteed sale for you at that point. But yeah, if you're really trying to cycle people, it might be worth setting a timer on your build that after a certain time, it just is like, thanks for playing, get out. Maybe in nicer words. But yeah. Business cards are great to take. Be stingy with them. I'm currently all out because we had volunteers there as well. And like, some mum would come up and be like, hey, do you have like a brochure? And they'd be like, here you go, and give out my personal business card. It's like, great. And like, you want to have something to give out because a lot of people will just forget. But if they have that giant Think of the Children logo or something, they'll have something to attach to and come back to later. But you probably want it to be different than your actual business cards. These, I don't know, it's just a little thing that I've learnt after getting cleaned out. So I took 250 with me to Pax South, and after Pax South I had 15 left. And after the first day, I like cut off all plebs, and only went with important people. But I still every now and then would see a volunteer reach for it and be like, yeah, here you go. And it's like, stop. But yeah. Aside from that, that's the majority of my immediate thoughts. But if you got questions, we are here. Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned how you transitioned from more design focused, your role within the team, design focused to producer. How crucial do you think that was that your team had a producer?
I think for us, actually pretty important because I was handling a lot of the business stuff, even just filling out forms, boring stuff like that. But some of it would take like a week to do. I recently did an application for Screen Queensland funding, and that was a week of pretty solid time invested in that and chasing up stuff. So I certainly wouldn't want anyone else on the team who are definitely more important than me. I wouldn't want them touching that because they have better things to do. So having that producer role was actually really great for that kind of stuff.
So would that be something that, like, when you're starting in a game jam and you with your team are going, well, depending how good this is, or even let's say you finish a jam and it's looking like, as you said, you've got something.
Yeah.
If you don't have somebody who can produce them, would that be a point where you go, right, we need to find somebody, or what, would a member need to learn how to do that? What's the recourse if you don't have someone with your skill set?
I don't really know what the downside of not doing it would be because I haven't experienced it, but in my opinion, it probably is something that you want. Just having, I think we've run into difficulties by not having a definitive, like, boss man kind of thing. If I was to go and like make my own company now and then hire my team, if something arises that I disagree with, I can just be like, well, I'm the boss, get out of here. But with this, because everyone has equal share in the intellectual property, it's a bit hard to definitively lock down and be like, well, I know what's right for the team and you don't, so we're going with that. So it's a really tough tightrope that you're walking. I think we've kind of gone for this strategy where if you are really passionate about something and argue it enough, it will probably get in. We can kind of tell when someone's like, yeah, I really like this, I want it in the game. I think with us, people, like, if it's design related, I'm usually like the final point. And I think a lot of that is like product vision as well as that design background. I think it's a good thing to have that final point, that final person that says yes or no. But it might not work for everyone, and it doesn't always work for us. So.
And just sorry to.
Yeah, you're right.
But finally, on that idea, like, be you a designer, artist, or coder, whichever. If you're somebody who was interested in like broadening your skill set and becoming knowledgeable and able in the producer side of things, like what's the starting point? What should you be prioritizing?
Entrepreneurship covers basically all that, I think. I think the entrepreneurial mind is best suited to the producer role because you're going to have that. To be a good entrepreneur, you need to have that vision of the future. Which really nicely fits with product vision and maintaining a product vision. So when something comes across, like someone implements a feature and you play it and it's just like, this is just not right. This doesn't fit what our game wants to look like down there. And it might work at the time, but when we release this thing, it's not acceptable. And so having that entrepreneurial mind can really fit into that role. You're also then learning business practices and business management and stuff. If your minor is free, you can pick it up at uni, which is that's what I did. So that's probably a good thing. Yeah. Yep.
I guess getting a bit more into that sort of like everyone is a designer sort of mentality in the team.
Yeah.
Are there still moments where somebody will need to sit down and like tweak like timers on things and movement speeds and all the really fine pretty details. And so that's something that you end up doing, or?
A lot of the time, that's me handling those like finer design choices. A lot of that as well is I think I have more time to playtest than others on the team, which means that I can sit down and do those little fine tweaks and those fine little choices pretty easily. But like we often run into points where it's like, this is a feature that someone else has designed. Yeah, it just kind of works. Our scoring system at the moment is probably something that I want to look at personally and overhaul, but at the moment it works. So it's like, oh, let's just run with that let's use their design for a bit. But it's probably worth coming back to.
Related to that, do you keep any sort of design documentation so that a programmer can get a feature that was designed or conceptualized with somebody else?
We started to. I don't think we do.
We kind of got like a bit of a, everyone's got their own little Google Docs.
Yeah.
They have, well, someone said this, write it down somewhere, get them to get more details.
Yeah. So we've got, it goes through stages. The first one is a thread on Discord called Spitballing, which is just like throwing out random little tidbits. And then that might work its way into like a programmer's to-do list, which then might end up in an artist's to-do list, and it kind of gets like slowly designed as it goes, iterated upon as it goes through each person's kind of to-do list kind of thing. I think, honestly, the design document was called more of like lack of time at that point on my end. We should have had one, but I'm bad, and so we don't. That's basically it. Yeah, no, at the time it was like sorting out all the contracts and the bank accounts and just business galore. And it's just like, nah, I just don't really have the time to be able to really invest in this. And I think that's when we started to shift towards this everyone is a designer kind of thing. And then realized the problems we had in that, and then shifted more to where we currently are. And we'll probably find more errors in our current style and keep building upon ourselves. That's one of the big, like, fun things I think of this, is we're kind of learning how we work, how each member of the team works, what it's like working with them, what we would do in the future, because like I still have these lofty ambitions, and I'm learning how I can actually achieve them a lot better. And a lot of that is just like, oh, well, we tried this and it didn't really work. And I think that's because this is my style of doing it and this is theirs, and it doesn't really necessarily always mesh. But yeah. Yeah.
How critical was like having Surprise Attack involved? Like, if you hadn't had them agree to publish your game, like first, how long it was pretty early, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if they hadn't agreed, then would you have kept going on with this as far as you have?
Yeah, I think we would have. I think the issue then goes back to that like time and cost investment, like opportunity cost. That's the word. But like, if we didn't have them, like personally, my financial situation, I wouldn't be able to go into it without some kind of support. So we would have had to have looked at like Kickstarter. And Kickstarter alone adds at least 3 months to your dev cycle. So now that's pushing it further. And then you have to, at that point, it's like, well, we can make more. And Surprise Attack kind of put on this restrictions to us in a sense of like, okay, we need to get this done quick, which conveniently lines up with our like opportunity costs. So like we need it to get done quick to make profit. And Surprise Attack is helping us achieve those goals, even though we're sacrificing some of our profit to do so. Mind you, the profit share is really good. I've seen publishers that are way worse, and theirs is pretty good. I don't know how much I can legally talk about there, but it's good.
You can say that much.
Yeah, it's low. But yeah, I think it was pretty cool getting them involved. Maybe another publisher could have done better, but I think these guys fit us pretty well. Their whole MO is around that we're your first and last publisher, because you probably don't know how to make a game, so you'll sign on with us and we'll teach you how to do that. Like, we'll teach you how to get your game on Steam without having to go through Greenlight and stuff. And we'll, after you release the game, you'll just have guaranteed slots on Steam and stuff like that. We'll teach you how to do marketing so that you don't need a marketing team again and things like that, which I think really works well for us, but not necessarily everyone. Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah.
How many people is the team?
So there's 6 of us total, which conveniently is the max size of the game jam. Yeah. So that was all about me wanting a full team for the game jam. Originally had 7, and then realized that the max was 6. So that was an awkward. Someone had to get scrapped. And thankfully that worked out in a way that was not too awkward. But yeah, 6 of us. So we're split. We've got 2 artists, 2 programmers, a sound guy, and me as this design producing kind of position.
What sort of structure did you choose for the business?
So we are a partnership, which is not the best business choice to do. But again, it like fits what we're doing, where it's like, you know, we'll end up paying more tax than we probably needed to, but it let us establish quickly and get into development a lot sooner, especially because we got so hung up on the business stuff. So if we were forming a proper company and setting up all those details, we then probably would have had to bring in like contract lawyers, and the whole process probably would have gotten extended. So it works for us. I probably wouldn't recommend it in the future. It's probably better to bite the bullet and form a proper company. But partnership agreements, they're fine. They're quick, which is good. And quick is often very helpful. Yeah.
What amazing tool did you discover during development?
What was that, sorry?
What amazing tool, something that you say, oh, we have this tool, I don't know. Like,
Magic Voxel. Magic Voxel. Yeah. Magica Voxel. Right. Yeah. So we were doing all of the 3D modeling in 3ds Max and Maya, and it was taking like our game, you know, we got these little bricks, like everything is like voxel based, and you'd be surprised at how long it would take to do that in like just 3ds Max. I don't know too much if you want to elaborate. Yeah.
Yeah, like I would say Magica Voxel will probably cut down development time by 50%, even just because it's so quick to use and it's really easy. And it's free, so it's good.
Free is always good. The fact that you can pay people to do work for you is another magic tool that I discovered. That really helps for getting our online multiplayer. So that one's come in at like around 4,000 US, which we're pretty confident is worth it. But yeah, that's like months of time that Zach doesn't have to do online multi, because you could do it this time, but it's just, would probably take us way longer. But yeah. Other tools, not sure what else. Have you had any big ones?
The other program to help with all our movement and system just for many events uses the Hotwing library, which is a Unity add-on.
No.
Otherwise, yeah, we're pretty much just using Unity and C#.
Yeah. Unity's so good though. I don't think we're not on like the latest build.
No, 5.4 is what we're restricting ourselves to.
Yeah.
We have reports of 5.5 just killing stuff.
But yeah, Unity, I guess, would be one of the biggest tools that we use. It's just very handy. But yeah. Yeah. Hey, if you don't, I'm good for no more questions if you want. That's on you. But no, feel free to contact me anytime as well, either, if you have any little queries, or if there's anything that I kind of glossed over that you'd like to know more about. But
the game isn't out, but you're
no,
and you have a publisher, you continue to go to PAX and whatnot, you're just ramping up the hype towards release. Is that the goal?
What's that, sir?
That's the goal.
Yeah. So this next PAX that I'm flying out to, so it's this weekend coming. So that's in Boston. So this is our final show before release. And so we're really trying to hit it hard and get that final lot. What we're really trying to do is like round up as many streamers and YouTubers as possible at this. And then after that, we're then going to do like a beta event and then get a copy to all those people. And then from that, that will like be a kind of like our final event before we release. Yep.
Have you guys thought